What's going on, Infected? It's Wolf of the Quarantine, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a game that was sent to me to review by the name of Valhalla. Now, Game of Valhalla is kind of a tableau building, dice chucking, dice allocation game about killing each other. It's really the best way I can put this game. So what it is each player are different factions of Vikings, and Valhalla and Ragnarok are upon us. So you're trying to send your warriors into battle to fight the other Viking clans, to let them die a glorious death to go to Valhalla and fight for Odin and the Allfather. And you earn points by sending your people to Valhalla. And by doing that, you're going to be playing cards from your hand into a little tableau that you have, and that's going to have dice that are the dice sides that are required for you to activate those, and basically play a little dice chucking, push your luck game, and try to cause more damage to your opponent than they can defend. Thus, all your people then die and go to Valhalla. So it's got this interesting little balancing act. So let's take a look at how it's played. Playing a game of Valhalla is actually fairly simple. What you're going to be doing is you're going to get your little player board, you're going to mix in any expansions, which more on that to come, any expansions that you may want, set out any of those boards, whole 9 yards. But the basic game, how you play it, is on your turn you're going to do one of a few different actions. You're going to play either one card regardless of value. On the left hand side it's got little requirements, so it'll have like maybe an axe and a shield, or a sword and a shield and a bow, or whatever. Or maybe some blank ones with equal signs between it, which is just 3 of the same symbol, doesn't matter what it is, or just 2 blank ones, just 2 dice, that's all it needs, doesn't matter. And then they're going to have some little symbols on them, like special abilities or requirements, stuff like that. But you're going to play one down that has whatever you want on it, doesn't matter. You just put 1 card down and you have a maximum number in your tableau. Or you're going to play 2 cards as long as they have a combined weapon requirement of 3 or less. So maybe this one requires just a sword, but this one requires a shield and a bow. So you can put both of those down instead. The next action you can do is declare an attack. So the way you would declare an attack is you're going to roll, just of course declare to your opponent you are attacking, and then you're going to roll all of your dice. Now at that point you're going to choose any number of these dice to keep. You can assign them to whoever you want, but you're really you're keeping them. So nothing's really locked in at this point. So I can maybe keep 3 of these dice. Now what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep the dice that you can assign to heroes, because you're trying to fill up all of their requirements. So if like this card here requires like a bow and a shield, and you roll a bow, maybe you want to keep that bow because now all you need is a shield, and then their attack power will contribute to the battle. And you're trying to just basically fulfill all of the requirements on a card that you're or one or more cards that you're trying to bring into battle. Then you take 1 die that you haven't decided you're keeping and you remove it, put it off to the side. Now you re-roll any of the remaining dice that you want. You re-roll those, and you basically can keep doing this until you have no more dice to roll. And at any time, any of the dice you've decided you want to keep, you can go, you know what, maybe if I can get this guy instead, so let's re-roll all of these, but you lose a die every time you re-roll. So your die pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then at this point you can use any cards that are in your hand, maybe that increase attack power, let you change symbols from one thing to another, use your Viking leader's ability itself, your Jarl's ability, all that. And once you've assigned your dice and go, okay, these are who's attacking, and you have your dice assigned, and maybe I go, I'm attacking you with 9 or whatever. Now it's the defender's turn. The defender does the exact same thing. They get to activate their Jarl, play cards in their hand, they're going to roll all their dice, assign them, they get rid of a die, re-roll, so on and so forth. Now, if the defender has beaten, if I attack him with 9 and you come at me with 10, then you've won the fight, and you get to send any of the heroes that you've activated to Valhalla if you want, and you stop me from getting a shield. However, if I win, then I take one of your shields, which is worth victory points at the end of the game, and everybody that I activated must go to Valhalla. Now, all of the cards have a little symbol at the bottom that show how many victory points it's worth while they're in Valhalla. So, by me attacking you, I get points from you, I lose everybody that activated, but now I'm vulnerable depending on how many I activated. So now, because you don't have to activate anybody. If I could activate this one guy, I can choose not to, because I don't want myself to be vulnerable the next turn. So there's a lot of give and take. And the last action you can do is you can draw 2 cards and keep 1. Then, once you've chosen one of your actions to do, you're going to draw, depending on if you're using some of the expansions or not, you're going to draw some cards, and you're going to keep 1. Now, the reason I say that is if you're not using any expansions, you're just using the base game, you draw 2 cards, keep 1. If you're using some of the expansions, you're going to draw 3 cards, keep 1. So that way it goes through the deck a little bit more. And that's it. That's all this game is. You're going to... That's the base game anyways. You're going to basically do that. Once I've done my turn, done my actions, or draw my cards, it's your turn to do whatever you want. You do your thing, goes back to me. Now this goes back and forth until A, one person loses all of their shields, or B, the deck is run out and you can no longer draw cards. At that point, everybody gets one last turn, so everybody takes the same number of turns, and you're going to add up all of the people that are in Valhalla, add up the victory points, and whoever has the most is declared the winner. Now, there are several variants. I'm not going to... There's no way I wouldn't have the time to get into each and every one of them, but I'll mention some of my favorites are, you have the fire giant ones, which basically they can scare off your opponent's troops when you play them. It just adds a bunch of new cards to the deck. The Valkyrie one is my favorite, just overall favorite, where you'll have little requirements down at the bottom of some of those cards that are like, if this person goes to Valhalla with a green clan, then you get extra points. So they would both go to the discard pile, and then you just get another extra card that goes in there with it, which is just extra points. Or maybe this one goes to Valhalla by itself, you get points. So maybe now you're attacking suboptimally in hopes that, you know, you get things killed, or there's a lot more strategy and thinking behind it. You also have like the Odin's Blessing. You get this big board in the middle that you can take that give you permanent bonuses at the expense of your action. So it could wind up leaving you vulnerable. There's a lot of stuff going on. If you take the top one, the bottom ones get destroyed. So if you know your opponent's going to take one, and then it's just this big trickle down thing, and they're really strong powers that are static and permanent bonuses, but you can only ever have 3. So it adds a lot more to the game. There's a few other ones, like there's the Loki's, the Loki cards. There's the team-based game where you and me are allies and we're attacking them. There is the Dwarven one that has its own special abilities. There's a solo version where you're fighting Fenris. There's so many more that, again, this video would be much longer than than it should be if I were to go into detail with all of them. So what do I think about Valhalla? Well, right out of the gates, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to beat around the bush. This game is outstanding. It's got a few minor gripes that I'll get to in a second, but the game is fantastic. And on top of that, there's so much content in this game. It is ridiculous. You could really tailor this game to how you want it to be. For example, my two favorite expansions to add are, of course, the Valkyrie expansion. The Valkyrie is my favorite mythological Norse myth creature. I love the Battle Maiden Valkyrie. And the cards, the fact that you have to now think, okay, I'm building my tableau with this one, but then I need to add green with it because I need both of them to go to the discard pile together so I can get extra points. And that 1 or 2 extra points you get could very easily give you the victory. Because every game we've played of this, the scores have been really close, and 1 or 2 victory points usually determines the victor. And then the fire giant one is outstanding. I could drop this fire giant, and maybe it's a super strong. Maybe doesn't require a lot of cards or dice to actually activate. Maybe it's got a really good ability, whole 9 yards, but by putting it down, I have to lose some of my creatures. Or maybe by putting this big boom, scary thing down, you have to lose one of yours and put it back into your hand. And so that one adds so much cool things to it. My second favorite is, I would say, probably the Odin one. Now, with the Odin one, in my experience, it's really cool because you get those static bonuses, which are outstanding. But you usually have way too much stuff going on. You can't sacrifice that one action it's going to take one of those cards, because you also discard cards to take them. But that's part of how cool that is, because is it worth it? is your tableau built up good enough to be able to maybe weather an attack? And is it worth not attacking that turn and getting victory points for his static buff? So you wind up having to think every turn is a decision, a very difficult one of going, should I do this? Is it worth it? And I love that. It's so cool. And I've had games where the board's out in the middle. Nobody uses it because you don't have to. There's better things you can do. Or maybe one person uses it a couple times to get a couple really cool abilities, but then they come out on top, and you're like, dang it, I should have just bolstered defenses and taken that. It's so cool. There's so much going on. And again, with the other expansions, you can tailor the game to how you want. You want a team game? Play a team game. You want to play solo? Fight Fenris. There's just, oh my god, there's so much going on with this game. It is so cool. And then when you factor in the fact that you can win this game by being defensive. You don't want to attack your friends? Don't. Be defensive. Have really high defense things, maybe cards that help you if you're the defender, and sit there and wait. But the problem with that is, people notice you doing that, they're not going to attack you, so you maybe can't win on defense. So maybe you do have to go on the offense now. But you can, if everybody's ganging up on you, if they're playing a game of fuck that guy, bolster your defenses. You can easily win this game through defense alone. And that is so cool. I like when games give you that alternative to where you don't have to be an asshole. You don't have to attack your friends. But if they want to be dicks, come at me, bro. And as you see here, I didn't even plan that. But that is a fantastic part of this game. However, the game does have a couple minor gripes, and I also do like to, in my reviews, if it's an overall positive review, spoilers it is, I do like to talk about some negatives that some people are not going to like. And the first one, of course, you're playing with cards. Some people are not going to like that. You could get screwed on the draw of the deck. Maybe you're trying to find certain creatures or warriors that work with other warriors, but you're just not getting them. Or maybe you're just getting powers, so you can get screwed over with the deck. In my experience, the several games we've played, that wasn't that big of an issue. You may get screwed on a turn or two, and if you are, skip your turn and do your first action, draw 2 cards, keep 1. Second action, draw 3 cards, keep 1. That way you get 2 cards, you have 5 cards effectively that you get to look through, and you get to keep 2 of them. That is essentially how that is. And so in my experience, that hasn't been a big issue, but that is going to turn some people off. Now, another thing is some of the cards seem like they might be a little powerful, a little more powerful than they should be. One example is I can't remember the name of it, but it turns there's one symbol on the dice that's useless, doesn't do anything. It's just a circle with an X in it, doesn't count for anything, and it sucks. It's the worst thing you can draw because you can't do anything with it, unless you have a card that just lets you change all of those to whatever you want it to be, which is so powerful. That is ridiculously powerful. But there's not a whole lot of them in the deck, so when they come out, it's a oh no kind of thing. So that is going to turn some people off. There are some cards, and that's not the only one. There's a few other ones that are, they're super, super powerful. But there's enough in there that, unless you're super unlucky maybe, you may have a really good turn, you may get a couple of those cards and you get a really good attack. But then later, I'm probably going to get something like that as well. So it does seem to balance itself out from the experience we've played. But just know there are some cards in there that are just insanely difficult, or not insanely difficult, insanely powerful, that some people are not going to like that there are cards like that in the game. And the last minor gripe that we had, now I mentioned I love the Odin board. But with that said, because the Odin board is really cool, but in our experience, it doesn't get used that often because the way the game's flow works is a lot of the time you can't afford to sacrifice one turn, even if it is for a really cool ability you're going to get for the rest of the game. You can't take that chance. You need to get the warriors out that you need, and when they're ready, you need to attack while your opponent's weak, so you can make sure you overpower them. And so it's not very common that you have the freedom to take a card from that Odin deck. But I guess that's the point, because you now have to wait. Is it gonna be worth it? And while I love that, some people are going to feel that the Odin deck or the Odin board does feel a little pointless. Now, with that said, I didn't care much for like the team-based battle. I actually prefer it as just a free-for-all. But again, some people are going to like that you have that team option. You don't want that free-for-all. There's like the King of the Hill variant. There's the Loki cards. There's, like I said, the biggest thing that biggest compliment that I can talk about with this game is it's pretty simple to play. You get a little reference card that explains to you very clearly how to play. There's a lot of thought behind what you need to do and a lot of interesting thought process, but what you're doing is very simple. It's a little counterintuitive because you want your people to die, but you also don't because you need to defend. And that's my favorite part about this game is it's fairly simple. The thought process and strategy behind it is counterintuitive but really good. It makes you think outside the box. And then the fact that there's just, oh my god, there's so much stuff with this game. You can tailor this game to however you want. Now, one other thing that is kind of review style that I wanted to, or part of the review that I really wanted to mention, and normally I don't do this because, again, this is all prototype. Technically, from what I understand, these are very close to what the end game is going to be. But this is still prototype. But this is what was sent to me. Now, I got this box here. Let me open it up here. This is what the game came in. It has a bunch of straw and a burlap sack. And this is what the game was in. Was this raggedy, dirty-looking burlap sack and straw. Which alone is really cool because it's super thematic. But on top of that, this was sitting on top of it. Which is outstanding. So I wanted to call out the developers for doing something like this. This is really cool. When I got a box to review, I'm already kind of excited. I'm like, oh, cool, what is this? I set it down on the table, I open it up, and I see a blood-stained, burned, crumbled, dirty, raggedy piece of paper, and I read it, and it adds just already puts me into a theme. You get blood stain here and on the back. And then I pull it open, and I see a raggedy-ass burlap sack with the game called Valhalla in it. That is outstanding. So kudos and A+ for the designers putting in that extra effort. It definitely sets the review off on a good note, knowing that they care so much about their game, they're willing to put forth that extra effort. And as a reviewer, a lot of people think the jobs are easy. There's a lot more work that goes on with this. You get all kinds of games ranging from really good to just terrible, hard to learn, stuff like this. So when you see something like this, it really sets the pace and sets the tone of what you're going to be expecting. So fantastic game. I highly recommend Valhalla. Minus its little gripes here and there, the game is fantastic. It doesn't play very long. It's fairly quick or fairly simple to play. Everybody that played it absolutely adored it. The artwork in it is gorgeous. There's just, you can tailor the game to how you want it to play. There's so many options, so many different strategies on how you're going to be playing, and it's just such a good game. I cannot talk highly enough about this game. Anyways, this is turning into a rant. If you like what you see here, once I have it, down below I'll have the Kickstarter links. You can back the game, check out their page. Even though this video is probably already longer than I want it to be, it'll provide way more information than I could possibly cover here. So definitely check those out. Anyways, this is turning into a rant, and I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.